you can now see that we're utilizing the space a bit more effectively in our new little sort of hot desk office area in our drawing. We're staying in our modifying objects.dwg file, and we're still experimenting with our little hot desking area in the office. So we're zoomed in nice and close to the desks and the nice big plant that we placed to give us a bit of greenery. We're going to zoom in a bit more now. We're going to utilize the stretch and lengthen commands in AutoCAD to tidy up that little partition wall that we've got in place there between the two desks here. So this desk here is going to be used as the reception desk. So the hot desking receptionist will sit there to book out the two hot desks the other side of the partition. Zoom in a bit closer so that you can really see this little partition wall that we've created previously. Now we're going to go to the stretch command on the modify panel. It's here, it's this one here. So I'm going to click on stretch and come into the drawing area. Now it's going to prompt me to select the objects that I want to stretch in AutoCAD. You need to use a crossing selection. Don't just run around clicking them, that won't work. You have to use a crossing selection. So position your little pick box here and you need to click and drag your little crossing selection like that. So as you can see, all three lines that form the partition wall are highlighted. Then left click again to confirm the selection. We're going to press enter now to finish that selection off, and now we're prompted for a base point on our stretch command. Now that particular partition wall vertically is 2,500 millimeters long, 2.5 meters. We want to shorten that so that it's 2,000. So we're going to click here on the corner, use the endpoint snap, left click, and just drag vertically down like so, keep coming down, and type in 500. But can you see you're doing it vertically and the polar tracking's kicking in? Make sure you can see those green dashes of your polar tracking. You can see that polar tracking is left on all the time. It's extremely useful. Type in 500 and enter, and you'll see that that wall has been adapted and is now shorter. You can check the length of it as well if you go to the utilities panel and click on the flyout there and measure distance. And just using your endpoint snaps, left click there, you can see it's now 2,000 long where we've stretched it 500 to make it shorter. So we click on exit there to come out of the distance command. We're now going to utilize the lengthen command. Now this is a lovely little tool. It's on the modify panel, but you click on the flyout here and just pin it open first. And lengthen is just here. So click on lengthen and come into the drawing area. It'll prompt you to select an object to measure. Look at the command line. You've got delta, percent, total, or dynamic. These are all different methods of lengthening objects, especially lines, in AutoCAD. You want to lengthen it dynamically. So you would then right-click and select dynamic first, and then select the object to change. Now, be careful here. Zoom in a bit closer, roll up on the wheel a few notches, and you want to aim for the right-hand side of this short line here. So get the pick box there, and you then click and drag this way to the right. Make sure your polar tracking's kicking in, and you want 1,500 millimeters, 1500, and then enter. And then it will prompt you, select an object to change again. We haven't got any more objects to change. So all you're going to do now is press enter again to finish off the command. You can then unpin the modify panel. That will go back into the ribbon. Roll back a few notches on the wheel. And can you see what we've done there? We've added the edge of another new piece of partition wall. We're just going to jump to the offset command quickly in the modify panel now to finish off. Our offset distance, it remembers the 120 from last time, or type in 120 if you need to, and press enter. And all you've got to do is select this line here, move downwards, left click to confirm direction, and enter to finish. Now, if you just roll back one notch on the wheel there now, you can see we're slowly building a little sort of partitioned off area for the receptionist of the two hot desks in the hot desking area. And we're going to build that up over the next few videos. And as you can see, that's utilizing now our stretch command and our lengthen command in our AutoCAD drawing. Once again, we're staying in our modifying objects.dwg file, and we're going to have a little look now at trimming and extending some of the lines on our drawing, just to tidy things up where we've created our internal wall partitions, and also to make sure that things look neat and tidy on our drawing. There's nothing worse, for example, looking at a wall like this, and you've got these two little intersecting lines here. So, trim and extend are located on the Modify panel, on the Home tab on the ribbon, and they're up here. So if you click on the flyout, you can see Trim has the scissors and Extend has the little arrow. Older versions of AutoCAD don't have the scissors and the arrow, just so that you know. So we're going to go to Trim first. So you click on the Trim command, come into the drawing area. Now you have a choice with Trim and Extend. With Trim, you can select your cutting edges and then trim the objects back to the cutting edges, or you can go for what is known as a dirty trim, where you use the select all option that you can see on the prompt on the dynamic input at the moment. Now, first one that we're going to do is with the cutting edges. I'm going to select this line as a cutting edge and this line as a cutting edge, so that you can then trim back those two little extension lines there to make the corner of the internal wall look tidy. So you press Enter to confirm the selection, like so. Then you select the objects to trim. So if you hover over them, you'll see you get a little red cross. And then you click, little red cross, and then you click. Then it's an Enter to finish, job done. You've trimmed that corner nicely. What we'll also do there very, very quickly is jump to the line command and quickly draw a little line from endpoint to endpoint and Enter to finish. Use our match properties to match the color there to keep it consistent and Enter to finish. So we've finished off the end of the little internal partition there and we've trimmed back the corner. Now what we'll do is we'll do trim again. We'll go back to the Modify panel, click on the flyout and select Trim. And you come into the drawing area. This time just press Enter. Don't worry about selecting any cutting edges. And it will say select object to trim. So if we come down here, you'll see that I can trim there. But notice I can trim anything. As I move around, anything that intersects anything, I can trim, you'll notice. So just be careful where you click with this one. It can be somewhat indiscriminate. We want that little piece there, and it's a left click and then an Enter to finish. And if you zoom out slightly now with a couple of notches on the wheel, you can see that that little partition wall now looks really neat and tidy. And that's our little reception area for our hot desk area in the office. We're now going to have a look at the Extend command. If you roll back on the wheel a few more notches and then zoom in again, just encompassing all of the office area, you'll notice there's a line here. And this line here, it says room separation. That's the layer it's on. Now, basically what it's trying to tell you there is this is a room and over here is also a room. Now, bearing in mind that this is a hot desk area, they're not going to want to hear all the noise coming out of the entrance hall of the office. So the trick is we're going to extend our wall lines here up to this wall here. Now, again, with the Extend command, you can have boundary edges, or you can just extend indiscriminately using the Select All option, just like you can with Trim. In this particular case, we want a boundary edge though. So we go back up to the flyout and select Extend. And our boundary edge is going to be this line here that forms the wall. Press Enter to confirm our selection. And we're going to zoom in now and just select this line here. You'll see it kind of shoot off as blue like that. And this line here, click again. And then Enter to finish. When you zoom out now, you'll see that we have a permanent wall in place. Now, it does need tidying up. So the first thing we'll do is we'll zoom in and you can click on that grey line, the separation line, that one there, and just delete it. We don't need that anymore. Roll back a few notches on the wheel again to zoom out so that you can see the wood for the trees. Again, we need to trim, and we need that dirty trim, just quick and easy. So we go up here to the flyout and select Trim again. Press Enter. Don't worry about cutting edges. And we just need to tidy back to here and just pan upwards a little bit. And that one there and that one there. Enter to finish. And we've now got a nice little hot desking area, nicely separated off with an internal wall away from the loud noise in the reception entrance hall area there. So you can see how Trim and Extend are extremely useful for extending walls and objects, but also trimming back and tidying those corners and those connections of those walls within this particular plan drawing. Once again, we're staying in our modifying objects.dwg file. And we've been working on this hot desking area in the office where we've placed the desks and placed the receptionist of the hot desk's desk as well. So you can see that's all looking nice and tidy and efficient now. However, we don't have a door that allows us to go through this wall here into the entrance hall reception area. So we're going to have a little look now at the break and join commands available to us in AutoCAD. Again, you're going to zoom in and get a bit closer to the wall so that you can see it more clearly. And we need to be looking at this wall here, this line here. Now, the break commands are available on the Modify panel on the Home tab, but you do need to click on the flyout there on the Modify panel and just pin it open to see them. So they're here. We've got the break, which selects the object and then breaks it between 2 points. And then we've got break at point as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to break our line at a single point. So we click here, break at point, and you're going to select the line like so. Select the object and click on it. Then it'll ask for the first break point. Hover over the line and you'll click now on the midpoint snap. Now, it doesn't actually look any different, but what you have now is a line there and a line there. You've broken it into two. Now, the lovely thing about lines is they have grips at each end. So if I select this line here and click on the lower grip and then just move upwards using the polar tracking and type in 900 and press enter, I've now cleared a space along that wall line, which is 900 wide, for a door opening to go out here into the reception area. I'll just hit escape now to deselect that line. Now, we need to make sure that the other line, this one, which is much longer, obviously has a break space that is 900 as well. So zoom in nice and close. Make sure that you can see what you're doing. So there's our gap there for the door, and you've got this line here that needs to be broken at 2 points. Make sure that you've got your object snaps, object snap tracking, and polar tracking on. And you'll see what I'm going to do next is really rather clever. Go to the Modify panel and click on this one here, just break. And it breaks the selected object between 2 points. So we click on break, come into the drawing area, and we're going to select our object, which is this line here. Click on it, and it automatically assumes the first breakpoint will be where you've selected that line. We don't want that to happen, so it's a right click and go to first point. Now you hover over this endpoint here and drag across until you get the intersection and click. We then drag down again, hover over this endpoint, drag out to the intersection using the polar tracking and click. And we've got a perfect opening there for our door. Let's just zoom back out a couple of notches on the wheel. So you've got your door space now. Now here's the fun thing about this. Often when you're planning office space, you will find that the powers that be say, we don't want a door there. Now, this has happened to me many, many times working in facilities management, as a contractor, as a consultant, and so on. Now, I've edited my drawing nice and neatly, and you've got your door opening there, and they say, no, we don't want you to have a door opening there. And it's like, but I've used break to break those lines, and now I've got to tidy it up. There's a really nice command in AutoCAD that will allow you to do that, and it's called join. It's this one here, and it's on the Modify panel on the little flyout that you've pinned open. So click on Join, and what you can do is join objects to form a single object again. Now, they need to be coplanar. I can't have a vertical line over here, and it joins to this vertical line here. That won't work. They have to be coplanar. So if I select this line, and then you come down here and select this line, and then press Enter to confirm, it's now one line again. So you've got one line again. And then we go back to join, and you can click on this line, and you can click on this line, press enter again, and it's joined again. It's a nice, quick, easy way of joining two coplanar objects together. Works really well, especially when people tell you that they don't want a door opening in that wall. We're staying in our modifying objects.dwg file, and you'll notice that we've still got the modify panel pinned open there up on the ribbon. You can just unpin that now, and that'll go nicely back into the ribbon. Now, what we're going to have a look at is grips and grip editing. Double click on the wheel to zoom extents on the drawing so that you can see the whole of the floor plan. And then you can zoom in down here on the hallway reception area. And we're going to look at these blocks that are sitting in the hallway reception area. They're not really that tidy at the moment. And what we'd like to do is make it a bit more of a welcoming environment for people that come in through these double doors here at the bottom of the drawing. So zoom out slightly so that you can see all of the entrance hall area like that. Now, the piano itself really should be possibly the feature here in the reception area. So what we're going to do is click on it and click on the grip, and using the grip, it's going to come down here, and you can click there and place it like so and hit escape to deselect. Now zoom in closer now so that you can see what's going on, and you can click on the piano again, click on the grip again, but this time when you right click, you get a group of commands that are grip editing only, which are stretch, move, rotate, scale, mirror, base point, and copy. Select rotate, and you can rotate your piano to your heart's content. So if I rotate through this angle here, you can see I want it facing the doors or not facing the doors, and so on. Now, the benefit you have is I can jump down here to my polar tracking, quickly change it to the 45-degree increment, and now, can you see, I can rotate it through 45-degree angle increments. And I want it facing the door like that. So using the polar tracking, I click once, and there's my rotated piano using grips editing instead of the regular rotate command. Hit escape to deselect. Now, when I just zoom out a notch on the wheel, you can see that the sofas need a bit of rotation, as does this table need repositioning. The table, again, you can click on it, you can click on the grip, and you can position it in the corner here so that when people come in, there can be magazines and perhaps some PR material for the company on the table there. Hit escape, job done. So now you've got some features when people come through the double doors. They see the table with the PR material, they see the piano and they think, this looks nice. So zoom out again slightly more, pan down a little bit more. And we're going to utilize the grip editing now just to move these. So if I click on this sofa, click on the grip, right click and select move, I can move it to wherever I want it to go. I'm going to move it up a little bit, just there to the right. Hit escape to deselect. And then the same with this sofa, click on it, click on the grip, right click, move, and we'll move this one up here a little bit as well, like that, and just hit escape to deselect. Now, it's all beginning to look much nicer and much more palatial. The last thing we're going to do is utilize the grip edits, do a little rotate again. So I select this sofa, click on the grip, right click, rotate. Take it round to this 45-degree angle, click again, hit escape to deselect. And you can do the same with this sofa. You can click on the grip, right click, and rotate. Rotate it through this 45-degree angle, hit escape to deselect. So now when people come into the reception area, there is literally a reception area. You can sit on the sofas, you can sit around the tables here, you can even dabble on a baby grand piano if you wish. Once again, we're staying in our modifying objects.dwg file, and you can double click on the wheel to zoom extents, and you can obviously overview what you've done so far. So you'll notice we've got our hot desking area on the right, and we've got our revitalized entrance area with our little baby grand piano. Now, you'll notice on the bottom left corner of the building there, we've got a room that is empty, minus the two little columns there. Zoom and pan so that that room is central on the screen, like so. Now, I'm going to ignore the two columns for the duration of the next video. We're going to calculate the area of this room using the boundary command. Now, facilities managers often need to know the usable area of a room so that they can rent the room out or perhaps work out what furniture and what people are going to go into the room economically for economic use of the room. Now, you will notice there are these weird rectangles around doors in this particular office. It's got nothing to do with the doors being weird. It's an access thing. These rectangles indicate how much space needs to be left to gain access to the door, and also when it comes to the door swing, the access of the door around the door swing as well. So these rectangles indicate where furniture shouldn't go, for example. Now, the boundary command will actually calculate the area of this room with the columns and with that door opening and the rectangle around the door opening for me. It's a really clever command. You'll find it on the Home tab on the ribbon in the Draw panel. Click on the flyout here and select Boundary on the flyout. And you can then come into the drawing and see the Boundary Creation dialog box. So you can see there we're picking points. Island detection is on. That means it would find these little columns for me if I needed it to. So leave island detection ticked. The object type will be a polyline. You can also make it into a region if you wish as well. Regions are for really if you want to extrude things in a 3D environment. We can just utilize the polyline for now. Boundary set, obviously it's in the current viewport. So all we've got to do now is click on OK. Prompts us to pick an internal point. So all you've got to do is left click inside the office area. And that office now is highlighted. You can see the room, the office is highlighted with that blue line. Just press enter to confirm. And there is your boundary. Now, I've deliberately left it on the yellow of the current drafting layer instead of obviously using match properties to match it to that olive drab color of the existing walls so that it stands out. But we now have a polyline, and a polyline obviously has an area. So if I select the polyline, I'm ignoring the two columns, by the way, and then I right click and go to properties. If I slide down the slider bar here, there's the area of my polyline. So I've calculated an area using the boundary command. I can also, if I want to, hit escape, and you can use the list command and press enter and select the polyline that way. And when you press enter again, you'll see there on the command line, there's the area and the perimeter. If you want to lose that expanded command line, you can just press the F2 key on the keyboard and it toggles it off again. You'll also notice there's more information. So it's prompting you to press enter to continue. And that's basically all of the coordinates of that polyline, all the vertices of the polyline, all the different XY values. So you can see there how quickly and easily you can calculate an area using the boundary command in AutoCAD. Once again, we're staying in our modifying objects.dwg file. And you'll notice that we're still in the same view as we were in the previous video where we placed the polyline to calculate the area of that room in the bottom left corner of the floor plan. What we're going to do now is look at the fillet and chamfer commands, and we're going to apply that to some new boardroom tables that are going to go into that room that is bounded by the yellow polyline. So first thing we're going to do is make sure that we're utilizing the correct drafting layer. We're going to go up to the Layers panel here in the Home tab on the ribbon and select this Make Current command. I'm then going to click on a piece of furniture over here, and you'll see that it puts me onto the layer that the furniture is on, so that I'm placing my new boardroom tables on the right layer. Then you can zoom into the top half of this room here. Just do a bit of zooming and panning. And then I'm going to go to the Draw panel, and I'm going to click on the flyout and select Rectangle there. I'm going to click here, drag upwards to the right, and the size of the boardroom tables is 3000, which is millimeters, 1250. Like so, I press enter, and there's my first boardroom table. I'm going to select the boardroom table and then right click, copy selection, pick a base point, using polar tracking, click here to get another one, and enter to finish. So you've now got two boardroom tables. Again, zoom in a little bit more so that they're nice and big on the screen and you can see what's going on. We're going to look at the fillet command first. So there's the modify panel. It's in the middle there. Click on the flyout and select fillet. I'm going to then right click and radius for the fillet radius, which is going to be 200, and enter. What you can then do is right click and utilize the multiple setting on the shortcut menu, because then you can just go round and go line, and there's our first fillet, line and line, second fillet, and work your way around the table, putting a nice fillet radius on each corner, and then enter to confirm. Now that multiple setting allows me to go round and do each corner in succession. If I hadn't selected multiple, I would have had to have gone back to the fillet command for each corner, which is very time consuming. However, even just doing what I've just done is time consuming when you see what I'm going to do next. I'm going to undo what we've just done. So there's undo on the quick access toolbar. Now, what you can do is you can utilize a really cool polyline command in the fillet command. So I go back up to the modify panel, click on the flyout and select fillet. Come into the drawing area, right click, radius, and set a radius of 200 again and press enter. Now you can right click again and select polyline, select the 2D polyline, click once, does all the corners for you. And it doesn't matter how many corners it has, as long as it's a closed polyline, it'll add fillet of that radius to every single intersected corner. It's a really, really useful feature. So let's have a look now at a similar workflow, but this time for the chamfer command. Same flyout here, but click on chamfer, come into the drawing area, right click and select distance. Now there's two types of chamfer, distance and angle. And if you use method here on the shortcut menu, you can jump between the angle or distance method. I'm going to select distance. And the first chamfer distance will be 200, enter. Second chamfer distance will also be 200, giving me a 45-degree chamfer. So I can just press enter to accept that second distance. Again, you can right-click and select multiple on the shortcut menu, and you can go around doing line and then line, and work your way around the corners like so. Now, obviously, this is time-consuming and laborious and somewhat mundane. And you'll see there that when I press enter, I'm done. Imagine if you had 15 corners to do, though. Click, 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 click. Takes a long time. So again, if I undo that, and again, go back to chamfer here on the flyout, right-click, distance, and put in 200, enter, 200, enter. And then all I've got to do is right-click and go to polyline on the shortcut menu, select the polyline, and it does all the corners for me. If I zoom out, you can see how quick and easy it is to utilize fillet and chamfer when you're working with closed polylines. We're staying in our modifying objects.dwg file. And we're going to have a look now at the divide and measure commands in AutoCAD so that we can start thinking about dividing some walls up to show the points where partitions might come off of the main structural wall. Now, at the moment, we're still looking at those conference tables from the previous video, so you need to just double-click on the wheel to zoom extents. And it's this wall here, down here on the bottom left, that we're going to look at using the divide and measure commands. Now, you want to ideally keep the polyline because that gives us the area of that room. So the trick here is this boundary polyline has been placed over the other objects there. So select the polyline and just right-click, move on the shortcut menu, pick a corner, and just pop it over here somewhere. You can easily pop it back because we know that this corner here tallies up with this corner here. Now, you don't actually need those columns. I'm not going to worry about those columns too much at the moment, but we will need to zoom into the room again like we did in previous videos. Now, the good thing is we've got a wall there and it's a line, so we can divide that line up. So we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to go to the layer drop down in the layers panel. Make sure that we're on our setting out layer, A-setting out, first of all. We're then going to go over to utilities here and go to point style like we did previously and select a point style that we need to use and more importantly that we can see. And that's that one there. Don't worry about changing any of the other settings and click on OK. Now we expand the draw panel out here and pin it open because divide and measure are here, like so. Now we want to divide this wall line into 4 equal segments so that we can then have setting out points or AutoCAD points that mark where the internal wall partitions are going to come out from this wall horizontally into the room. So I click on divide here, first of all. Come into the drawing area. I select the object I want to divide, this wall line here. Number of segments, as I said, is 4, and we press enter. And there's the points there where we can take our internal wall lines from. Now you'll notice they kind of clash there with the columns. So we might need to possibly undo that. So I'll undo it and we'll go back to divide. This time, select the line again and we'll put 5 segments in. And that's better because we've now got one there, one there. We don't need to worry about the ones on the columns because the internal partition walls will come off of those columns there and there. So now we know that we've got these 2 points here that we can work with. And now I can go back to the wall line. I can utilize here my make current and I'll select that wall there like so. All I've got to do now is draw some lines. So I click on the line command and I utilize that snap there. Remember the node snap? Take my line horizontally this way and we'll take it out by a distance of 5 meters. And press enter to confirm and there's our first line there. Now I can easily just copy the line. I'll select the line, right click, copy selection, use the node snap, take it to this node here and enter to finish. So that's one way of doing it where I've divided that wall line into equal segments. I'm going to undo that now. I'm going to take it all the way back and even lose the setting out points. Let's go back to this one here. Let's use measure. And this time I'm going to select the object to measure, which is this line here. But remember to select towards the end of the line that you want to measure from. So I'm going to select it down near the bottom here. And then I'm going to specify the length of each segment. I'm going to suggest 3,500. And as soon as I do that, if I just come out a notch on the wheel there, you can see that we've got 3,500 here, 3,500 here, 3,500 here, and then the remainder there. If I've had selected this end of the line, it would have done it the opposite way. But the benefit again is if I zoom in now, you can see I've got those 2 node snaps here available off of the points that AutoCAD has created. And what I can do is I can go to make current again here, select one of my wall lines, go back to the line command, come off of the node. And again, it's the same process, the 5,000 like we did previously, enter to confirm. I can then select this line, right click, copy selection, and you can then click on the node, copy to the node there, and you can press enter to finish, and you've now got 2 internal wall lines again. So you can see how divide and measure can be extremely useful. But what you do need with divide and measure is a separate layer for setting out and also a good point style that stands out and is obvious in your AutoCAD drawings. As usual, we're staying in our modifying objects.dwg file. We're going to have a little look now at editing polylines and splines in AutoCAD. Before we do that though, we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to unpin the draw panel, so that goes back into the ribbon. We're also going to remove this node point here, this AutoCAD point. That one can go, so we'll delete that one like so. And we're also going to delete this line here. So select it, delete it. We're then going to pop up to the draw panel, click on the flyout and select this one here, spline fit. And coming off of the node here, you're going to click and then just put a curvy spline in here like so, to there, and then press enter. It won't look the same as mine because the points are fairly random, but I just need a spline in place so that you can edit it for this particular exercise. Now, the other thing we are going to do is zoom out slightly, roll back on the wheel a couple of notches, select our polyline here, right click, select move on the shortcut menu, and take this endpoint here, the corner, and zoom in and take it to the internal corner here and click there to move it back to where it was originally. And then double click on the wheel to zoom extents so that you can see everything that's going on. Now, zoom in again on your lower left corner, this room here. Get it to fill the screen like we've done in previous videos. And what we're going to do now, we're going to look at editing the spline first. So if you want to edit a spline, the quickest way to do it is to actually physically click on it. It's that quick and easy. And you can see there that I can utilize the grips, click, drag, and so on. Click, drag, and so on. And the other benefit I've got with splines is I can click on this down arrow here and convert it to a control vertices spline instead. And there's the control vertices, and I can click on those and I can drag them any which way to convert the spline to a different shape. You'll also notice when I click on these points, I can stretch the vertex, I can add a vertex, I can refine the vertices, and I can even remove that vertex if I want to. And can you see it's removed it now from the spline? So there's a lot of editing tools in there that allow you to edit individual vertices and control points on splines. I'm just going to hit escape there now to deselect that spline. Now, the other thing you can do, obviously, is edit polylines. Now, we've got a polyline in place already. It's this big boundary here. So you can click on it to select it, and you'll notice that there's all these grips going all the way around the polyline. And you'll notice here that there are these funny sort of almost thin rectangular ones. They are midpoints on a line that forms part of a polyline. If you hover over it, I can stretch, I can add a vertex, or I can convert that to an arc. Select Convert to Arc just for interest, and you'll see that that creates an arc, and as I drag it outwards, let's say horizontally along the polar tracking, it actually converts that to an arc as part of the polyline. If I hover here and I convert to line, you'll see it goes back to where it was before. An extremely useful polyline editing tool. If I hover there again and select Add Vertex, it'll now prompt me to decide where I want that vertex to go. I'll perhaps place it further along this line here, and then just hit escape a couple of times, select the polyline again, and you'll see I've got that one there. Can you see that's the midpoint one? And I've now got a new vertex there and a new midpoint there because I've got a new line segment as part of the polyline. Now, it may be that you want to just convert some lines to a polyline. If you just hit escape a couple of times to deselect the boundary polyline and zoom in on one of the conference tables here, zoom in onto the one with the fillets. So we've got it here. It's a polyline and it's got nice curved corners as we did with the fillet command. Go up to the modify panel and click on explode here. Select your conference table and press enter to confirm. And what you've now done is you've exploded it to its original AutoCAD objects, arcs and lines. If you want to convert that to a polyline, you simply type PL. And can you see you've got polyline there? Or if you type PE, it's polyline edit, or pedit as it's sometimes called. So you've got both there. It's very quick and easy to type them. PL is polyline, PE is polyline edit. Select polyline edit from the shortcut menu there. And now it says select polyline. Pick any arc or line, like so. It will say, do you want to turn it into one? Yes, you obviously do. So you're going to press enter to confirm, and then you select join on the menu that appears, and you just work your way around. You can select the original object as well. Just make sure you get all of the lines and the arcs like so. And then once you're done, you press enter. Press enter again to close out the polyline edit command, and you've converted that back to a closed polyline. It's that quick and easy. So you can see there's lots of tools there to edit existing information, including your polylines and your splines in your AutoCAD drawings. We're starting a new chapter now in our AutoCAD Essentials course, and we're looking at hatching and gradients. And surprise, surprise, we have a drawing called hatchinggradients.dwg for you. You know the drill by now. You can download it from the library to follow along with the video. Now, it is familiar to you. It's a replication of the drawing from the previous chapter. And we're going to zoom in on those conference tables that we created in the room in the bottom left corner of the building. And we're going to utilize hatching first. Make sure you're on the A-hatching layer provided in this drawing. And the idea being is you put your hatching on a separate layer in your drawing so that you can freeze it or perhaps switch it on or off if you need to. The hatching command is on the draw panel, so you click on the flyout here and select hatch. Now, as soon as you do that, you'll see the ribbon change quite dramatically and go to the contextual hatch creation tab. Now, we're just going to change a couple of settings here. We're going to utilize pick points here. We're going to make sure that we utilize a pattern, which is going to be ANSI 31, which is the default pattern anyway. Make sure that you update your hatch scale to something in the region of 25 initially, just to see how that works. And then you're going to hover over the left-hand conference table like so and click. And you'll see that that is quite a dense hatch. So we obviously need to change the hatch scale with that one. So what we'll do there is we'll undo that by right-clicking and undoing that last hatch. And then it prompts us to pick an internal point again. Before we do that, double click in here, change our hatch scale to say 100 and press enter. And then you'll find now when you hover this time, you're just starting to see the lines there appear of the hatch pattern. Now, bear in mind, this is a millimeters metric drawing. So we might need to take this up to somewhere in the region of 250 millimeters between each hatch line and press enter. And now when you come in, you'll see you're starting to see a decent hatch pattern there. So just left click and there's our hatch pattern in place and press enter to finish. And you'll see the contextual tab disappear and we're back to the home tab on the ribbon. Now, if you zoom in a bit closer on that, you can see that there's a nice hatch pattern there, albeit a little bit dense, but it does make that conference table stand out in the drawing. Just pan across now, and what we'll do in the next video is we'll look at how gradients work in the other conference table in this room in the floor plan. We're staying in the hatchinggradients.dwg file, and you can see that I've left it in the same state as it was at the end of the last video where we placed the hatch pattern over here on this conference table. We're going to look at gradient fills now, so make sure you're still on the A-hatching layer up in the layers panel, which you can see that we are up here. Now, with hatching and gradient, you can place them in a drawing to highlight areas. The good thing about the gradient fill, though, is you don't need to worry about the color of the layer that it goes on because it defines its own colors. So if I go to the draw panel now, click on the flyout here, and instead of hatch now, I select gradient. Come into the drawing area and you'll see the hatch creation tab appears, but now we're working with gradient fills and you'll see they look subtly different with the blue and the yellow. Now, you can flip between gradient and pattern very easily here. If I click on this down arrow here and select pattern, that looks remarkably like the hatch patterns that we used in the previous video. That's because it is. And if I go here, I can select gradient and it just updates it that way. We have got icons that take us to each different setting though in the drop down menu on the draw panel on the home tab on the ribbon. Now, for gradient fills, I'm going to select some colors. And I'm going to come in here, I'm going to go for an orange, and you can see it goes a very bright orangey color, and I'm also going to select a blue. And the reason I'm doing that is it gives us a definite color change. Can you see that there with the blue and the orange? And I'm going to go for the GR linear setting here in the pattern. And then when I hover, can you see you get a distinctive gradient between the orange and the blue? And when I left click, it places that gradient fill, press enter to confirm, and the hatch creation tab on the ribbon disappears. So when I zoom out slightly now, you can see that those two conference tables certainly do stand out in our AutoCAD drawing. Editing your hatches and gradients in your AutoCAD drawings is actually very, very easy. We're staying in the hatchinggradients.dwg file, and you can see the hatch and the gradient fill that we've placed in the previous videos. All you've got to do in AutoCAD is hover over the hatch like that. It will tell you it's a hatch pattern, double click on it, and now you'll find that you're in the hatch editor. Now, sometimes when you do double click on a hatch pattern, you may find that you get the quick properties palette come up. Don't worry about that. You can close it like that very quick and easily. And you can see that the hatch editor contextual tab is now available on the ribbon at the top of the screen. So it looks very, very much like the hatch creation tab on the ribbon. All that you're doing now, though, is you're editing the properties of your hatch pattern. So the one property that I'm going to edit on the hatch pattern here, I'm going to double click there, change the hatch scale from 250 to 500, and I'm going to press enter, and you'll see those lines change accordingly in the hatch pattern. Once you're happy with that, you can go up to Close Hatch Editor here, and job done. You've edited your hatch. It's that quick and it's that easy. It's the same with the gradient fill. Hover over it, you'll see it goes slightly grainy. Can you see that? Orange and blue, and then a paler orange and blue. Double click on it, and you may find that the quick properties pops up again. Don't worry about that. You can close that very quickly and easily clicking on the cross there. The quick properties is actually one of your settings down on the status bar. You can turn it off and on very easily if you wish. And it's very easy to do. You go down to customization here, like so, and you will find that quick properties is here, like that. And you'll find that quick properties pops up on the screen down on the status bar. And you've got it just here. There it is there. Quick properties off and on. So there's quick properties there and then off again like that. So if you do need to switch it off, it's just on the customization on the status bar there. Now, the hatch editor has come up again for our gradient fill. And what we're going to do is we're going to change it to a different type of pattern. We're using GR linear at the moment. I'm going to change that to GR inverted cylinder, that one like that. And you can see the pattern has changed. I go up to close hatch editor, close it, and I've done the edit quick and easy on my gradient fill like that as well. It's very, very easy to edit hatches and gradients in AutoCAD because as soon as you select them, like so, you'll see the hatch editor appear like that. Hit escape to deselect the hatch, hover over the gradient, click on it, and again, it comes up very quickly and easily in the hatch editor tab on the ribbon. Just hit escape to deselect, and there you go. You have edited your hatch and your gradient fill very quickly in your AutoCAD drawings. We're going into another chapter now in our AutoCAD Essentials course, and we're going to be looking at more text techniques in AutoCAD. And in this particular video, we're going to be looking at aligning text in different ways, both single line text and multi-line text. So the drawing looks remarkably similar, and it's called usingtext.dwg. And you can see that at the top of the screen there, and the usual drill is you can download the drawing from the library and use it to follow along with this particular video. Now, just before we start, a good trick, a good habit to get into is to make sure that you're on the appropriate layer for the work that you're doing. So we're working with text, so you want to make sure in your layers panel here that you are using the text layer. So there's the text layer there. Make sure that text is the current layer when you're working with text. It's kind of common sense, but it's very, very easy to forget to do it, and then you've got to go around and change all the properties of all your text to a different layer. So just try and get into the habit of picking the right layer or making the right layer current before you start working on a particular aspect of your drawing. We're going to zoom in first of all on our little hot desking area here that we created previously in previous videos. And you can see that we've got some text there now that says hot desk area and reception area. Now, ideally, we want the text here to be aligned to the walls in the areas themselves. So the hot desk area here, you'll notice, can you see both bits of text are single line text? So we're going to select them both, and then I'm going to right click, and we're going to go to properties here. And in the properties palette, I'll just move it over so that we can see what we're doing. We're going to come down here and look at the text area of the properties. And the justification at the moment is middle center. We're going to change that, and you're going to click on the down arrow and select middle left. As soon as you do that, can you see the text changes to a left-hand justification? So all we've got to do now is close the properties palette. It's already selected. Quick right click on the mouse, click on move, pick a point on the text, doesn't matter which point, and just align it very, very simply there with the wall. So there's our hot desk area aligned to the left to that wall there. We're going to do the same with reception area here. We're going to select both of them. And you're then going to right click again like we did before, properties on the shortcut menu, scroll down to the text area and change the justification this time on the down arrow to middle right. Now, I've deliberately hidden this one just as a little bit of a surprise, and surprise, surprise, it's justified to the right for us. So you can close the properties palette, keeping the text selected, right click, and again move, pick a point on the text, and we'll line this in with the wall over here, click there, and you can see we've got the reception area and the hot desk area all aligned nice and neatly. Double click on the wheel now to zoom extents, and if we zoom in on the entrance reception area here, you can see that we've got reception entrance area here. This is multi-line text. So what we can do now is click once on it like that, and you'll see that that allows us to obviously move the text around and change the parameters of the text. If we double click on it, that'll open up the text editor on the ribbon for our multi-line text. and we highlight all of our text like so. We then go up to justification here in the paragraph panel. Click on the flyout, and I want this to be middle center. So you've now got middle center justified text. Over to the closed text editor, you can also just click away from the text if you wish. When you select the multi-line text like so, you can click there, click on the grip and just move it centrally. Line it in roughly central there in the reception entrance area. Hit escape a couple of times to deselect, and you can see that's all nicely centralized and middle centered. And when you double click on the wheel to zoom extents, all of our text is aligned nice and neatly in our drawing. We're staying in our using text.dwg file. And what we're going to look at now is aligning text in a title block. Now, at the moment, we're in the Model tab in our drawing, and in the previous video, we aligned our text in our reception area, our hot desking area, and the reception area for the hot desking area. Those are the red pieces of text you can see in the Model tab. What we're going to do now is we're going to stay with the text layer up here in the Layers panel, but go to the ISO A1 Landscape tab here, the Layout tab. And if you zoom out slightly by rolling back on the wheel, you'll notice there that we've got a simple viewport showing a general arrangement of the floor plan, and you can see that we've got a simple title block in place as well. Zoom into the lower left corner of the title block like this, and you'll see that we've got a single line here, and it's on the layer title block. Now we're just going to use our text layer for this, and we're going to go to the annotation panel on the home tab on the ribbon. Click on the flyout for text and select single line text. And it asks for a middle point of text. Now it's remembered the justification of the single line text that we did previously. So you need to right click and you need to select justify. And this time we want to justify to the left. So select the left option. It will now ask for a start point of the text. Use the end point snap on the end of the line. And then it'll ask for the rotation angle of the text, which will obviously be 0. Press enter to confirm, and it will place the text, you'll notice, on the end of the line. Now, we haven't actually defined a height of text yet. Don't worry too much about that. What we're going to do is put our name in there. So we're going to name our drawing. Make sure you spell your name correctly, unlike me. There we go. So Sean Bryant there. I press enter once, and then I press enter twice. And you'll see that that's placed that text nice and neatly on the left-hand end of the line, aligning it neatly in the title block. Now, I've just used the standard text style as well there. And the text style I've been using, you'll find it here in the drawing. It's Title Layout 10, strangely enough. That's the one that is in the drawing, Title Layout 10. So make sure that you're using Title Layout 10 in your drawing when you're placing this text in the title block. Now, that's just one of the text styles that's available in this particular drawing. You could use other text styles if you wish, but just make sure that in the text style itself, you've got the appropriate height text for the environment in which you're working, whether it be the Layout tab or the Model tab. So there's our first piece of text, nicely aligned, single line text. Zoom out slightly by rolling back on the wheel, pan across and zoom in on the bottom right corner this time. And what we'll do here is we'll just put training drawing as the other piece of text at the other end of the line. So we go back to the annotation panel, click on the flyout, single line text again, and you're going to right click again and select justify. This time we're going to justify to the right, and AutoCAD will prompt you for the right endpoint of the text baseline. So we use the endpoint snap and left click. Rotation angle 0, press enter to confirm, and you'll see your cursor there. And I'm just going to put in there training drawing, like so. Enter once, enter twice to confirm the single line text. And again, that's using that particular text style. Again, you can experiment with text styles and perhaps use a different one. If I just double click on the wheel now to zoom extents and maybe just pan upwards, you can see that text nice and neatly at the bottom of the drawing. You could, if you wanted to, also delete that line now, and it all looks nice and neatly and aligned on the title block. Okay, let's jump over here now to the top right in the notes column. Now we want to place some notes on our drawing very briefly and very quickly. We'll stick with the text layer and we'll jump into the annotation panel and click on the flyout and then click here on the styles that are available. Now you'll notice that we've got the title layout 10. I'm going to select title layout 10. And what you'll find is the text will be 10 high when I do this. Now, the trick here is to edit or perhaps create a different text style. We can do that very quickly and very easily. Click here and click up here for text style. And you can see we've got our title layout 10. Perhaps we need a different text style. Perhaps we need something that says note layout 3.5. You'll notice that title layout 10 in the text style has a height of 10. It's predefined. That's why AutoCAD didn't ask for text height when we were placing those bits of text at the bottom of the title block. So let's create a new text style, and the style name, we'll call it notes underscore layout, like so, underscore 3.5. And we'll OK that. So there's notes layout 3.5. The font style this time will be regular, and we'll change the height to 3.5. And as you can see, that looks like that. We'll apply that. We'll set it as the current style, and then we'll click on close. Now, we've done that deliberately so that our notes, the text is smaller. You can obviously experiment with lots of different text styles, but you can see how quick and easy it is to generate a new one if you need it. I'm going to go to the annotation panel again, click on the flyout, and select multi-line text. There's the ABC of the multi-line text, giving me a little preview of how big the text is going to be. Don't click exactly to the corners. Avoid that. You want to click about here and then drag the multi-line text area to about there. Make sure before you start typing, you click here inside the editing area of the multi-line text. And I'm just going to put some very simple notes in. So there's notes, colon, enter, takes me to the next line down. In the text editor tab on the ribbon, I'm going to go up to paragraph here and select bullets and numbering, and I'm going to go numbered. And I'm just going to put all dimensions in millimeters. Now you notice I started typing then, nothing happened. Remember, when you work in the ribbon, you then need to click back in the editing area to make sure that the editor knows that you're typing. Now when I type, can you see? It all kicks in. So I'm going to say all dimensions in millimeters. Like so. Full stop there, job done. Click away from the text and the text gets placed. If I want to edit that, I just double click it. I can highlight that perhaps, make it bold, underline it, click away, and there's our multi-line text all neatly aligned as well in our title block. Simply double click on the wheel now to zoom extent, and you can see your text neatly placed and aligned in your AutoCAD drawing. We're starting a new chapter now in our AutoCAD Essentials course, and we're going to be looking at more dimensioning techniques where we can look at more dimensioning, but also more importantly, how we edit dimensions effectively and tweak them in our drawings to suit our requirements. We've got a new drawing for you. It's called moredimensioning.dwg. You can download that from the library as usual to follow along with all of the videos in this particular chapter. Once you've got the drawing loaded up, we're going to zoom in on the top left quadrant of the drawing. And you'll notice this time we've got grid lines and we've got various lines that we can dimension to and from. We're going to place a simple linear dimension from the end of this orange line to the end of this orange line here, first of all. Make sure you're on the dimensioning layer, which is A010-D_dim. You can see that in the layers panel there. That's the layer that we need right there. Also make sure in the annotation flyout that you are using the training dimension style. If it's not there, select training like so. Then we're going to place a linear dimension. So again, we go to the annotation panel here, click on the flyout and select linear. And we're going to go from this endpoint snap, left click, to this endpoint snap here, left click, and just move up a little bit and click again to place the dimension. Now the dimension looks really big, and that's because the annotation scale down here should be 1:100. If your dimensions come out really small, change the annotation scale to 1:100 and replace the dimension like so. So we're going to look at editing a dimension first of all. There's a really lovely command for this. It's called dd edit. So you literally type DD and then edit, like so. And you'll see it come up on the suggestion menu, DD edit, text edit. And it allows you to edit any piece of text annotation. It's a really clever command. So if I click here, like so, it prompts you to select an annotation object. So you go and select your 3048 dimension. As soon as you do that, everything kicks in. Your text editor up on the ribbon, your little cursor there, and so on. So what we can do is we can come over here now using the cursor keys. If I go to the end of the 3048, put a space in and put overall. So that is our 3048 overall dimension. I can then close the text editor on the ribbon by clicking on the green tick, and that has updated our dimension. It's edited it quickly and easily. You then just press enter to close out the command. Now, that's great, and you can see that we've done what is in essence a text override in that dimension. You can also do overrides in a quicker, slightly different workflow as well. You can select the dimension, right-click and go to Properties on the shortcut menu, and then you get your Properties palette. Now, if you just slide down the Properties palette to the text area here, I'm going to just move this over so that you can see the dimension. You can see there that we've got text override, bracket, bracket, overall. Now, the two little brackets represent the dimension, the 3048, and there's our text override, overall. So I can override that, deleting the overall text and leaving just the brackets. If I press enter, watch the dimension on the screen. It updates back to just the dimension value. So those two little brackets there must be in place in a text override if you want the dimension value to appear in the dimension. So then we just close the Properties palette, hit Escape to deselect, and you've now edited and overridden your dimension in your AutoCAD drawing. We're staying in our moredimensioning.dwg file. And what we're going to do now is place a few more dimensions so that we can start looking at breaking and spacing our dimensions in our AutoCAD drawings. So we're going to make sure that our annotation scale down on the status bar is still at 1:100, making sure that we're in the Annotate tab on the ribbon, and we're going to utilize the Dimensions panel. You can use your Dimension Layer Override here to make sure that you're using the A010 DDIM layer. We're just going to place a few more linear dimensions. So click on the flyout here, and you can select linear. I'm going to go with this endpoint here. It may show up as a node based on the 3048 dimension. And then I'm going to come across to the intersection with the grid line here, click, and just drag upwards a little bit. Take that to sort of there, like so. So it's above the 3048. We're then going to place another linear dimension, and you're going to utilize this intersection with this grid line and this intersection here with this grid line, and bring this one down really close to the previous one, like so. So you'll notice that the spacing there isn't great. It all looks a little bit on top of each other. So we're going to utilize the dim space command, which is on the Dimensions panel on the Annotate tab on the ribbon. It's this one here. So you click on Adjust Space and you select the base dimension, which will be the 3048, this one here. You then select the dimensions to space. So I'm going to select this one and then this one. Then you press Enter to finish. Now, there is an auto function here, like so. You can do auto, or you can enter a value. Now, bear in mind, you are in model space and in millimeters, so that's real. It's all 1:1. So you need to make sure that you put in a sensible value, which in this case will be 700. 700 millimeter spacing, press enter, and you'll see that they now all space nice and neatly. They've got an equal space between each dimension. Now, we're deliberately going to place another linear dimension over these dimensions. Now, you wouldn't normally do this. It's not normally good CAD practice to do it. But I want to demonstrate the dim break command. So I want you to come here to another linear dimension, and we're going to dimension from this corner here, left click, and you're then going to dimension to this intersection here or this corner here. Doesn't matter which. And then you're going to left click again, and you're going to deliberately take the dimension all the way through the other dimensions up to here. Now, you wouldn't normally do that. It looks really untidy and it's not good CAD practice. but it's a perfect example of how you can use the dim break command. Now, if I go to dim break here, you can click on the icon, come into the drawing area, and it says select the dimension to add or remove the break to. So I'm going to select the 9601, that one there. That's the one I'm going to break. And then I select the object to break the dimension, which is the one we've just drawn. Click here, and can you see it adds nice, neat little breaks to the horizontal dimension line there. And I can select the object to break the dimension again if I want to. I'm not going to. I'm going to press Enter this time to close out the command. Now, the lovely thing about this is if I want to unbreak that 9601 dimension, I can go to dim break again. I can select the dimension to add or remove the break. So that's going to be this one here. And what I can do now is I can right click, and you'll notice on the shortcut menu that you can click on remove and it removes the break. You can then click here on the dimension that you don't want because it looks awful, I hasten to add, and you just hit the delete key and it's gone. But can you see how that break command is extremely useful in tidying up your annotation on your drawing? If you have got dimension lines which cross each other, you can use the dim break command to add those breaks, basically to emphasize which dimension is which in your AutoCAD drawings. We're staying in our moredimensioning.dwg file, and we're going to have a little look now at the continue command and the baseline command when you're dimensioning in AutoCAD. You're going to zoom out a little bit by rolling back on the wheel a few notches and just panning across. And you'll notice that we've got all our grid lines in place in this drawing. So you can see all our grids are available and we can dimension to those grids. Now you'll notice that we've already got a 9601 dimension here. And that's going from grid to grid. That's going from the 1.1 to 2 grid there. What we're going to do is use the continue command to continue those grid spacing dimensions. And it's very quick and easy to do. It's on the dimensions panel here, and it's on the annotate tab on the ribbon. Click on the flyout and select continue. And it will prompt you to select a continued dimension. That'll be this linear dimension here. And then as you come across, you just go to each point you want to dimension to, using the intersections there with the grid bubbles, enter to finish. It will prompt you, do you have another continued dimension to go to? Which we don't, so we just press enter and we're done. Quick and easy. And the nice thing about that is the continued dimensions are all at the same level. You don't need to worry about aligning them or anything like that at all. It aligns them to the original dimension that you selected. Another really nice tool in the same vein as continue is the baseline dimension. Now, I like this one a lot. It works really, really well, and it allows you to stagger dimensions in your drawings. Now, we're going to go between grid lines 2 and 3. So zoom in a little here so that you can see a little bit more closely the points that you're going to snap to. We're going to use this orange line here as our baseline, and then we're going to dimension across to the right. Now, this is a really clever tool, and I think this works really well. We're going to place a linear dimension first. So there's our linear dimension going from there to there. And I'll bring that to, say, there, like so. I then go here to the flyout and select baseline. And as you can see, if I come in here like this, can you see it's putting a baseline dimension in each time? So I'm going to go to this one, and then to this one, then to this one, and then to this one. And then I'll press enter to finish. Now, if I just press enter to close out, it's asking me for another base dimension, which I don't have. So it's 2 enters there to finish. I'm going to zoom out slightly, and can you see the baseline dimensions have kicked in across there? Now, obviously, they're not as neat and as tidy as I would like them to be. So this is where we could potentially look at changing how our dimensions sit in the drawing. So what we can do here is we can select our overall grid dimension. Click on the grip there and take that further up this way, perhaps. Or what we could do is delete it completely and just have our baseline dimensioning in there. Now, don't forget, things like grids can be updated as well. We can easily do a bit of moving and stretching. So let's make this look better now that we've got all those baselines in there. What we want to do is we want to take our grid bubbles and the text in them further up. So if we select 2 there, and make sure you get the text as well in the bubble, because there's 2 elements to this. There's the text and the bubble, like that. And you need to zoom in on the 3 as well. So there's the 3 and the bubble, like that. And what we're going to do now is we're going to move them vertically upwards. So it's a right click and a move. Pick a center point, like so. Make sure you get a center of a circle there. And then using your polar tracking now, you can move these up and tidy it up. So keep the polar tracking in place and go up to, say, there, like that. Notice the 9601 here updates with the geometry. So you might want to do your 1.1 bubble as well there at a later time. And then all we've got to do now is extend up our grid lines. Now, again, this is just grip editing. Select it, click on the grip, and make sure that you come back this way, come vertically up, zoom in on your bubble. And as you come up with the polar tracking, you'll get an intersection there, or possibly even a node because of the dimensioning. And there's the first grid line extended. And we'll do the same here. We need our grid line here. It's just here. Click on the grip. And what we'll do is we'll come up this way and again, zoom in, get in close. And when you get the intersection, click, hit escape to deselect a couple of times. And you can see now that we've extended our grids and we're making our dimensioning look very different on the drawing. But you can see now how the baselines sit nicely between the grid lines. And you can tidy this up to your heart's content using grips and moving things around in your drawing. I'm not going to obviously finish the drawing per se, but you can see how all of this can be neatly and tidily edited within your AutoCAD drawings. We're staying in our moredimensioning.dwg file, and as you can see, we have quite the morass of dimensions all over that top part of our drawing now. So what we're going to do is remove some of the dimensions we don't really need to use for this particular video. So these dimensions over here on the left, you can click on those 3 there, and they can be deleted. Hit the delete key and job done. Same with this dimension here over on the right. Hit the delete key, job done. Now it's a little bit clearer and we've just left the baseline dimensions in the middle between grids 2 and 3. What we're going to look at now is automatic dimensioning. This command here on the dimensions panel on the annotate tab. It's also on the home tab. It's just here as well on the annotation panel. Jump back to the annotate tab though, because it's a little bit easier to work with dimensions from there. Now, this automatic dimensioning is very useful because it allows you to dimension different types of dimensions in the one session. So I'm going to click on it now. And if you come into the drawing now, it says select objects or specify first extension line origin. Now, we're just going to look at a few objects in the drawing. Now, you'll remember the rectangles around the door openings. There's one here, and you'll zoom in quickly and just hover over it. And now, if I just hover there, can you see I get a little pick box? And it actually automatically dimensions that line. If I zoom out slightly now, I can take that dimension up a little and click, and I'm still dimensioning. I haven't actually finished dimensioning. It's now prompting me to find another dimension in this dimensioning session. Now, if I zoom out a little bit more and pan across, we've got windows over here in this particular quadrant. And you'll see them there. Can you see the windows there? And if I hover again, can you see I get a window opening dimension? I click, zoom out a little bit, come up a little bit with the dimension so the extension lines are there, and click. And you can see how quick and easy this automatic dimensioning is. Now, you're not just restricted to linear dimensions either. You can right-click and specify different types of dimensions if you want to as well. It's entirely up to you, but the default is linear. I'm just going to hit escape a couple of times now just to cancel that. But you can see when you're automatically dimensioning that you can just go around and dimension at your leisure with all different types of dimensioning all in that one dimensioning session. It's a really nice feature in later versions of AutoCAD. It's very productive and it keeps you on your feet, on your toes, while you're dimensioning in your AutoCAD drawings. Once again, we're staying in our moredimensioning.dwg file, and we're going to have a quick look now at multi-leaders in AutoCAD. They're on the Annotate tab on the ribbon, and you can see there's our leaders panel there, and there's the multi-leader command. Now, just before we get started, make sure that you're utilizing your dimension layer override here. So we're using the A010D_dim layer there. And also make sure that you're using the multi-leader style called training, this one here. It's a nice simple multi-leader with a bubble and a number so that you can call off numbers against the multi-leaders in your drawings. So I'm just going to zoom out slightly here on a couple of clicks on the wheel and pan down a little. So you can see the dimensions at the top of the drawing now. And you can see where we've moved the grids and so on and so forth. Now, multi-leaders allow you to individually pick out objects on your drawings. And what I'm going to do is individually pick out this desk area here on the right. So you might want to now zoom in and relocate yourself. And basically, we're just going to place a multi-leader coming off of the large conference table here. So making sure that we're using the training multi-leader style, click on multi-leader, and just pick a point on the conference table. And as you drag the multi-leader out, you'll see it comes out. And can you see you've got a leader landing coming off of the crosshair there? So I click once. It'll prompt you now for a tag number. So this is like a little block with a circle and you've got a number in it. And that's the tag number attribute that it's asking you for. So just place 1 in there. Click on OK in the dialog box. And there's our multi-leader with our 1 in it. Now, obviously, that's one table, and you might want to add some other multi-leaders to different tables as well. Just pan a little bit, hold down the wheel and pan. And what we'll do now is we'll put another multi-leader just here coming off of these hot desks here. So we'll do another multi-leader. Just pick a point inside the desk, click, drag, and place it above the 1 multi-leader that we've placed. Click there. We'll put a 2 in there this time and click on OK. Now, obviously, those multi-leaders look a bit higgledy-piggledy now, and obviously they're not level, and we'd like to align them. So what I'd like to do is align the 1 multi-leader with the 2 multi-leader. We can do that very quickly and easily here in the Leaders panel. It's this icon here, Align. So you select the multi-leaders. There's the 2, there's the 1. And then enter to confirm, and you select the multi-leader to align to. I want them to align to the number 2 one here. And I can just move around using the polar tracking, line it in horizontally, left click. They're now neatly aligned, and we've got 2 different types of table pointed out by the multi-leaders. Now, there are lots of other multi-leader commands. You can group them together, similar multi-leaders, with collect. You can add a leader or remove a leader line from multi-leaders in your drawings as well. But as you can see, multi-leaders are versatile, quick, and effective. Make sure you've got a suitable multi-leader style in place, and you can annotate using leaders very quickly and easily. We're starting another chapter now in our AutoCAD Essentials course, and we're going to be looking at reusing content in AutoCAD itself. So we've got a new drawing for you for this particular video. Surprise, surprise, it's called Reusing Content.dwg, and you can download it from the library to follow along with the video as usual. Now, the first thing we're going to be looking at with reusing content is groups and placing groups in your AutoCAD drawings. So on the Home tab on the ribbon, and it's just up here, there's the Groups panel. Now, my suggestion is that you click on the flyout and pin it open so that you can see the Group Manager and the Group Bounding Box, etc. Group Bounding Box is on by default, and it will just show a bounding box around a group when a group is selected. Now, there is a methodology to this, and it's important that you follow the methodology that I suggest. Otherwise, it can get a bit fiddly sometimes. So if you want to create a group, go to the Group command first, click here, come into the drawing area and select the objects that you want to go into the group. Click here with your pick box and drag a crossing selection over all the objects. Left click again. All the objects are now selected, but notice on the command line you've got name or description. Right click and you can give your group a name quickly like so. And the group name will be household, because they're all household objects. You've got a hinge, a bolt, and a keyhole. And we're going to press enter there, and our group is now named. You'll notice on the command line, group household has been created. Now, the reason that I've got you to do it that way is when you go into your group manager here, it'll bring up your group manager dialog box, which is known as object grouping. There's your group name there. Now, if you hadn't named it and this box was ticked, include unnamed, obviously it would have appeared as an unnamed group. If that was unticked, you wouldn't be able to see your unnamed group in this list. So just be aware of that. It's quite an important thing that you create the group first and then go to the group manager. I can give my group a description, so we'll call it household objects, like so. And you can do things like highlight it, you can make it selectable. If you make it non-selectable, that means that it's objects that people cannot select in a drawing. You might not want them to be edited, for example. You can remove objects from the group, you can add objects to the group, you can rename the group and reorder groups. What's really nice though is if I explode a group, keep an eye on group name at the top of the dialog box. It disappears. When I click on OK now, they're all just back to their original objects. They're not a group anymore. So you can explode a group very quickly and easily back to its original objects if you need to. But grouping's a useful tool if you want to move groups of objects around in your drawing, such as groups of desks when you're doing workstations in an office plan is a very, very good example of utilizing groups in your AutoCAD drawings. We're staying in our reusing content.dwg file. Just make sure that you haven't got any groups set up. So you might want to use that explode group that I mentioned in the previous video. And you'll see that these are just objects made up from things like arcs and lines and circles and so on. So we've got a hinge, a bolt, and a keyhole. And what we're going to do is we're going to create individual blocks of these so that we can insert them into our AutoCAD drawings. First thing we're going to do is make sure that our current drafting layer up here on the layer panel is 0. We're then going to select all of our objects like so and also put them onto layer 0. Now you may think that a bit strange, but the whole idea is when you're creating blocks, if you put them onto layer 0, when you insert the block, it will then adopt the current drafting layer. So now I've put all of these onto layer 0. I'm going to change that layer again because we're going to start on the hinge layer. So ideally, we want hinge to be the current drafting layer, even though all these lines are on layer 0 right now. Now to create a block, you can use the block panel on the Home tab on the ribbon, or you can go to the Insert tab on the ribbon, and there's Create Block there in the Block Definition panel. Personally, I prefer the Home tab because I've then got panels like Draw, Modify, and Annotation if I need them. So up here now on the Block panel, I've got this icon here, Create Block. Brings up the Block Definition dialog box, and this one's going to be called Hinge. So we just type in hinge like so. We then pick a point for the base point for our block. So I click on Pick Point, and I'm going to utilize that midpoint snap there. So you click on Midpoint Snap. You can see there's no way you could have guessed what those X and Y values were, by the way. You now need to select the objects that make up the block. So you need to click on Select Objects here, and just a little crossing selection all the way over all of the objects that make up the hinge. Enter to confirm that selection. So now you've got a little preview there of your hinge as well. You need to make sure that the objects are going to be converted to a block. You've got 3 options there. You can retain the original objects, which are on layer 0, and it will create a block ready to be inserted in the drawing database. You can convert the original objects to the block, and the block is then in the database in the drawing, or you can delete the objects and they will then be deleted, but the block will still be there in the drawing database to be inserted. If we use convert to block, it means that the block stays exactly where it is, and it basically is formed from the original objects. Make sure that you scale uniformly in the X and Y direction. Make sure that you allow exploding, because you never know when you want to explode a block, change it slightly, and make a slightly different block. Our block units will be millimeters. It's a metric drawing, so we're working in millimeters. We do not need to open it in the block editor, so make sure that's unticked. When you click on OK now, you'll see that that is now yellow using the hinge layer, and if you hover over it, it is now a block reference. So when you click on it, it has one grip, which is the insertion point we selected. Hit escape to deselect, and it is a block. Let's go now to the layer dropdown and select bolt this time, the green layer. We'll go to create block again in the block panel. And this time we give it the name bolt, like so. We pick a point. I'm going to use the center snap this time there, like so. And select the objects. You click on select objects. You make sure that all of the objects are selected. Enter to confirm. There's the preview. You make sure that you've got convert to block, scale uniformly, allow exploding, block unit millimeters. Make sure that open in block editor is unticked. Click on OK. That is now a block. You click on it. You've got the one insertion point grip. You hit escape to deselect. Again, layer drop down. You select keyhole. This time we go to create block. And again, we put in here the name, which will be keyhole. Like so. We pick a point. And you can use perhaps the center snap there, like so. Select the objects, and again, click, drag. Make sure you use window or crossing selections to get all of the objects, and you can press enter to confirm. There's the preview. We've selected the objects. The objects are converting to block. Scale uniformly, allow exploding, millimeters, open in block editor unticked. Click on OK. So there's now our 3 blocks. You can see our keyhole block there with the single insertion point. Now the trick here is, depending on which block you want to insert, you then select which layer you want it to come in on. So now I can go up here, click on the flyout, and select perhaps the hinge layer. So hinge is now the current drafting layer, and you can now insert any of these blocks because they're in the drawing. So go to the block panel, and you click on the flyout here, and there's bolt, hinge, and keyhole. So if you now select hinge, because that's the layer you're on, there's your hinge block, and you're reusing that content. So I can click there like so. There's my hinge. Change the layer to bolt. Go back to insert here. There's bolt. There's a bolt on the bolt layer. Change the layer now to keyhole. And again, insert. There's our keyhole. And click like so. So every time you bring a block in, because it was created on the layer 0, you'll find that it adopts the current drafting layer. We're staying in the reusing content.dwg file, and you can see the blocks that we've already placed in the drawing, and more importantly, created within the drawing as well. Now, the explode command in AutoCAD is extremely useful if you want to explode a block reference back to its original objects, perhaps edit those objects, and create a new block. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to tidy up our drawing a little bit. We're going to utilize the explode command. So there's the explode command on the modify panel, like so. We click on explode, come into the drawing area, and select a block. So there's our block there, and then we press enter to confirm after selection, and you'll see that that is then exploded back to its original object. So you can see they're just lines on the 0 layer. What I'm going to do now is just select all of those and delete them. And let's do the same with the bolt as well, this one. So we can go to explode. You can click on the bolt, press enter to confirm, it explodes. It's all lines and circles again. And what we'll do is we'll just select all of the objects, delete them. Let's do that with also these two keyholes here as well. So we're going to go to explode now. And what I'm going to do is kind of mislead you a little bit deliberately as a lead-in into the next video. Select this keyhole here. Press enter to confirm the explode. And you can see it goes back to the arcs on the layer 0. So select that arc and you're going to delete it like so. Then go up to the layer drop-down and select layer 0. And then we're going to click on the line command and place a line from endpoint to endpoint like so, and press enter to finish. Now what we've done there is we've exploded a block, we've changed the geometry of the exploded elements that form that block. What we can do now is think about redefining the block definition. So let's say that we want our keyhole block, this one here, to now look like this one here. In the next video, we're going to cover how we redefine a block based on new geometry in the drawing. So let's end this video here and we'll redefine our block in the next video. We're staying in the reusing content.dwg file, and I've left it in exactly the same state as it was at the end of the last video. Now you'll remember that I did a bit of a lead-in into this video in the last video as well. We did the explode, and what we did was we altered the geometry of the exploded block here, which is now on the white layer 0. Now we're going to look now at redefining a block in an AutoCAD drawing. So at the moment, our keyhole block looks like this, and it's a block reference. Let's go up to the block panel in the Home tab on the ribbon and click on Create Block. Now you can redefine any block just by clicking on this flyout here. So there's keyhole there, like so. Okay? And we can specify a new point, new objects, and so on. So let's go back to our pick point, and I'm going to utilize the center snap there and left click. Then you need to select the objects that are going to create the keyhole block. So select objects, you click on it, select the objects that are going to make up the block, like so, just like you did last time, and press enter. So there's our preview there, like so. We now need to convert to block again, like we did before, scale uniformly, allow exploding, etc. Make sure the open in block editor is unticked. When we click on OK now, you'll find that you get a prompt about redefining your block. And in this case, yes, we do want to redefine it. So we click on Redefine Block, like so. You'll notice that this block updates with the new definition. This is now a block as well, and you'll find it's only white because it's gone onto the current drafting layer. So all you've got to do there is select that block, put it on the appropriate keyhole layer, just hit Escape to deselect. So what we've done there is we've redefined a block definition by exploding a block, changing the geometry, and redefining the block using the Create Block command. We're going to look now at a slightly different way of reusing content in our AutoCAD drawings. We're going to look at utilizing the wblock command in AutoCAD. So we've got a new drawing for you. It's called wblock.dwg, and you can download it from the library as usual to follow along with this particular video. When you do open the drawing, you'll see that we've got one block definition in the drawing. It's called door, and it's on the layer door there. It's a red door in color there. You can see it on the screen. Now, we're going to wblock out that block reference to its own separate DWG file called door.dwg. To do that is fairly easy. All you've got to do is type wblock, dynamic input picks that up, and you press enter. That brings up the Write Block dialog box. Now, the good thing is you can pick an existing block from your drawing. So if I go to block here, you can then pick the door block reference from the drop-down list. That means you don't have to worry about base point or objects because they're all defined in the door block. You then need to define the file name and path where the DWG file is going to go. So it might already be there, or if you want to change the path, you click on the button, and I'm going to save mine to my 07 reusing content folder. There's the door.dwg. It's an AutoCAD 2013 DWG file. Click on save. So that's my path saved. I just check that the units are millimeters, which in this case they are, and I click on OK. You'll see a little flash top left of the screen. That's AutoCAD writing that block reference to its own door.dwg file. If I now go up to Open on the Quick Access toolbar, you'll see that there is now a door drawing available for me. If I click on Open, it'll open it. You may find that the door isn't actually central when you open it. So just double click on the wheel to zoom extents, roll back a couple of notches, and you'll see there it is on the screen. Now you'll notice that it's all its individual objects when you W block out. There's a little polyline there for the door, and there's an arc there for the door swing. Just make sure you're on the same layer. So on the layer drop down, we'll make sure that we're on layer 0. We've done that already when we've talked about creating blocks. We're then going to draw a line. So line command from the draw panel and go from this intersection here, left click, down to this endpoint here, left click. And you've drawn a line there, enter to confirm, and then you're going to select the arc and delete it like so. So what you've done there in the door.dwg file is you've created a different method of displaying the door. You're using a line now to represent the door swing instead of an arc. All we've got to do now is save that door.dwg file. So we click on Save on the Quick Access toolbar. Once that's saved, you can close it. So we'll click on the cross on the File tab. We're back now in our wblock.dwg file. We're going to go to the Home tab on the ribbon and into the block panel and click on Insert Block. Only this time, we're not going to use this door block reference. We're going to go to blocks from other drawings on the little flyout there. Now, this brings up this kind of strange palette that you may never have seen before. And it's a new feature in AutoCAD 2020. And I really like this feature. It's great because it gives you a palette where it shows you other drawings where there might be a block, recent drawings where there might be blocks, and the current drawing where there's a block. We're going to be using other drawings here. And if you want to change the location of your door block, where you're finding it, you click this button here. And there's my door block there. So I select it and click on Open, and it applies that there to this little panel here. Now, I'm just going to bring the palette to the left for you so that we've got a bit of space here in the drawing. All I've got to do now is literally double click on this block. If I double click it, it'll now say to me, door is already defined as a block in this drawing. That's the door with the arc for the door swing. I now want to redefine the block from the door.dwg that I just saved with the line instead of the arc for the door swing. Redefine block. There's the new block. Click once to insert the block, and it's redefined the existing block as well. If I had 700 doors in a floor plan in this drawing, all of those doors would now be redefined. And that's how quick and easy it is to utilize the wblock command to do this in your AutoCAD drawings. We're now going to look at creating a simple dynamic block. We have a new drawing for you called dynamicblock.dwg, and you can download that from the library as usual to follow along with the video. When you open up the drawing, you'll see that we have a polyline here for the door on layer 0 and an arc there for the door swing, again on layer 0. However, our current drafting layer should be set to door, like so, because then once we've created the block, it will obviously adopt the current drafting layer and go on the door layer, like we've done in previous videos. So we're going to create a dynamic block. The workflow to create a dynamic block is very similar to creating a regular AutoCAD block. So I'm going to utilize the Home tab on the ribbon, go into the block panel and click on Create Block. Now all blocks have to have a name, so we're going to call it Door. And what I do with dynamic blocks is I give it a slightly different name. So it's door-dyn for dynamic. Now we're going to pick a base point for the door. So we click on Pick Point and I'm going to utilize that corner there, left click. And then you need to select the objects that form the door. So you click on select objects, and the objects we need are the arc, obviously, and the polyline for the door, like so. You then press enter to confirm. There's the preview of the block there. Now, it says convert to block, retain or delete. Leave it as convert to block, like we've done previously. We're going to scale uniformly and allow exploding like normal. Block unit will be millimeters in this case, but this time we tick open in block editor. When we click on OK, you'll see that the screen changes quite dramatically. We're now in the dynamic block editor, and you'll see the block authoring palettes here. They're on the left here. And you'll see that we've got a block editor up on the ribbon with lots of tools and functionality. We're not going to use much of that at all. We're going to place a simple flip action on the door so that it flips from either side when we insert the block. Roll back just a couple of notches on the wheel, just so you've got a bit more space in the editing area. Now, in order to create this flip action, we need to add a parameter and an action. So the parameters here, we need to select flip, like so, and come into the drawing area. Now, the base point of the reflection line will be halfway between the end point here and the end of the arc here. So hold down Shift on the keyboard and right click, and you want mid between 2 points. So you click there like so. First point of the mid will be here, the end point snap, so you click, left click. Second point will be this end of the arc, left click. And then just drag vertically upwards using your polar tracking and pick a point above the arc swing of the door there. And you'll see you now get the name of the parameter, flip state 1. Just pop the label just near the flip there like so. Now you'll notice that you get an arrow now indicating the flip, but we've got an exclamation mark. That's because we haven't applied an action to the parameter yet. We'll do that in a moment. We're going to also add a base point to our door. So there's the base point parameter there. Click. And the base point is going to go just on that end point snap there. Left click. You'll see the little circle appear. That just gives us a base point to work with. And then when we're inserting the block into drawings, it's got a base point, a known base point. A bit like when we create that base point for a regular block. We now go to the Actions tab on the palette. And there's our flip action, like so. So we click on the flip action and come into the drawing area. Select our flip state 1 parameter. And then we need to select the objects that are going to flip. And that's everything. So left click up here. And you'll drag your window all the way across, getting everything. You want to get everything selected, so click here, like so. Make sure you've got that flip state 1. If it's not highlighted, perhaps do a crossing selection the other way. Left click, drag upwards like that, left click again. Just make sure that everything is selected in the drawing area, including flip state 1. Then press enter to confirm. You'll see the exclamation mark disappear down here on the flip arrow, and you'll see there's your little flip action there, flip 1. So you've got everything in place now. So what you want to do is close the block editor. Now, before you do that though, you can test the block. There is a test block option here. So if you click on test block, it'll take you into what looks like a drawing space. There's your block. You can click on it. You can click on the flip and you can see it's flipping quite happily. So once you've finished testing, go over here to close and close test block. You're then back in the block editor. You now need to close the block editor as well. And it'll prompt you to save the changes to the door DYN block. So save the changes. Now it's converted your polyline and your arc to a block. If you click on it though, you can see now it's a dynamic block because you've got your flip parameter here. Click on the flip parameter and you can see that you have now created a very simple dynamic block in AutoCAD. We're starting a new chapter now in our AutoCAD Essentials course, and we're going to be looking at attributes and tables. So the first thing we're going to look at is attributes. So we've got a new drawing for you. Surprise, surprise, it's called attributes.dwg. And as usual, you can download it from the library to follow along with the videos in this particular chapter. What we're going to create is a setting out point for an AutoCAD drawing. So you can see we've got some lines and some circles there. They're all on layer 0. And you'll notice that we also have another layer called SOP metric in our drawing as well. What we're going to do is we're going to stay on layer 0 initially until we create the attributes. And then what we'll do, we'll go to the SOP metric layer so the block automatically adopts the current drafting layer. Go to the Insert tab on the ribbon, and you'll notice in the block definition panel, we have a Define Attributes command. That's what we want, Define Attributes. That'll bring up the Attribute Definition dialog box, and I'm going to pop that over to the left of the screen. We're going to create 2 attribute tags. The first one of these will be the setting out point number. Now, attribute tags cannot have spaces, so I'm going to put SOP, like so, and then underscore NO for number. And the prompt will be SOP and then number. I always put a question mark because at the end of the day, it is a question. And the default here might be something like SOP 001, for example. That's an actual default value that will go into the attribute itself. Looking at the attribute mode, it's going to be a locked position attribute. We're going to pick a point where it's going to go. So we're going to tick the specify on screen option in the insertion point. We're going to look at the text settings now. Justification, we're going to place it on this corner here on the end point of this line. So ideally, we want bottom right as the justification. So you'll notice you've got all different ones here. Bottom left, bottom center, bottom right, and so on. So ideally, we want bottom right in this particular case. So bottom right is the justification point. The text style is standard, and we need to make sure that we put the appropriate text height in there. I'm going to leave it at 2.5 at the moment, just to see how that works in the drawing itself. Click on OK. And you'll see that that's really, really tiny there, but I'm going to place it on there like so and click. So the attribute is there. It's just really, really small. If I zoom in real close, you can see it's there like so. So you can see that this is a millimeters metric drawing, and I've made that 2.5 millimeters high. So it needs to be bigger. Just like any piece of text, an attribute can be selected, right click, go to properties, and you can see the height there is 2.5. I'm going to change that to 200 and press enter. It'll be a lot bigger now. Close the properties palette, roll back on the wheel to zoom out, and you'll see that's a much bigger attribute now. Just hit escape to deselect it. So just be aware of that height thing with your attributes. They basically behave in the same way as text. So if you're working in a metric millimeters drawing, and you place an attribute that's 2.5 high, that's going to be 2.5 millimeters, which is going to be a little bit too small. We're going to go back to define attributes now here, like so. And this time we want an invisible attribute this time. We don't want it to show on the drawing, but we want it to be there as part of the block. So this time it will be a setting out point type. So I'm going to go SOP underscore type, like so. Remember, no spaces in the attribute tags. The prompt will be, again, SOP type with a question mark. And we'll put SOP circle as the default value, like so. And what we're going to do is, again, make sure it's invisible. Insertion point specify on screen. Justification this time, if I move this over here, will be top right. So let's just move that box over there like so. So we want top right this time. Text style standard, that's fine. Text height, make sure you make it the right size this time, 200. And we won't align it below the previous attribute definition. We're using the endpoint of the line. So we click on OK, and it may look a bit weird when you first place it on that endpoint snap and left click, but as soon as you click, you'll see it places it to that top right justification. Now, the 2 lines that we've got here, this one and this one, are now not needed. They can be deleted. They were purely used for setting out the 2 attributes in the block. So what we need to do now is make our block, create our block in the drawing. So we go to the block definition over here and we go to create block. Just like we've done before in previous videos, This time we'll call it a setting out point, SOP, like so. We pick a point, so we click on pick point like we've done before. So you click on pick point and come into the drawing. Use the center point there of the circle, or possibly it might show up as a midpoint of those lines. If you hover over the circle there, you'll see the center snap appear and left click. Make sure that you select the objects like so. You want everything selected. So a crossing selection, you click here, drag over, you click here, that selects everything. And then it's a enter to confirm the selection. So you'll see the little preview there as well. We are going to delete this time. And make sure we scale uniformly and allow exploding. Make sure they're both ticked. Block unit will be millimeters. We do not need to open it in the block editor. It's remembered that from the last time we used the block definition, so we'll untick that. Notice we've got delete set. As soon as you click on OK, you'll find that your block disappears. It hasn't disappeared completely. We're going to go back to the Home tab on the ribbon. We're going to make our SOP metric layer the current drafting layer. We're going to go to the block panel and click on Insert. There's our SOP block there. We click and it comes into the drawing. So you can see it's got the default of SOP 001. When we insert it and click, it'll prompt us for the attributes that we've set up on the block. So we've got SOP type, that's the invisible attribute, SOP circle, and we can change that maybe to SOP 999. Click on OK, and that updates the attribute like so. It's that quick and it's that easy. Attributes are really, really useful in blocks. They can portray a lot of different types of information. In this case, it's our setting out point number. It could be a desk number. It could be who's sitting at that desk, an extension number of a telephone on a desk. It could be networking points around a building. It could be anything. And the whole idea of these attributes is it allows you to control that information, but more importantly, that attribute information can be extracted from a drawing at any time and perhaps go into a table or an Excel spreadsheet for further portrayal of that information to other departments within your organization, for example. We're staying in our attributes.dwg file, and I've left it in the same state as it was at the end of the last video. We've created our setting out point block with our attributes. You can see the SOP 999 attribute there on the block, and it's on the SOP metric layer. Now we're going to look at the enhanced attribute editor, which basically allows you to edit the attributes of any block that has attributes. It's a really nice feature of AutoCAD. You can hover over a block with attributes, simply double click on it, and the enhanced attribute editor pops up. You can even go and select a block that you want to click on and edit at any point in time as well. Now, the enhanced attribute editor allows me to basically edit any property of my attributes. So you'll see that we've got our SOP type. That's our invisible attribute. So that one doesn't display in the drawing, but the SOP number does. So if I double click in here and change the 999 to 200, you'll notice that automatically updates on the screen. I click on apply. Thank you very much. Job done. Now I can also make sure that I've got my SOP number selected and go to text options, which means I can now potentially change the height. If I make that say 250 in the height box there and OK that, you'll see that the SOP 200 gets bigger. I've clicked on OK though, which means I've closed the enhanced attribute editor. Just double click on the block again and it comes back again. I'm going to select SOP number again this time and go to properties. Now the nice thing is I can change the properties of any attribute as well. Take note up here in the dialog box. It tells you the block, it tells you the tag that you're working on. For example, I could potentially select SOP type and then go to properties, and I could change the color, but nobody would see it because it's an invisible attribute. So I go attribute, SOP number, then go to properties, then go to color and say red. That will become red. I'll apply it and I'll OK it. So you can see how really useful that enhanced attribute editor is. It allows you to edit the attributes of any given block that has attributes in it. And the nice thing about that is sometimes you do need to tweak those attributes to make them stand out on a drawing. So for example, I've made that SOP 200 bit bigger by changing the text height to 250, and I've changed the color to red so that it stands out on any setting out point on any of my AutoCAD drawings. We're moving into our tables side of things now, and we're going to be looking at table styles and how we create table styles, work with tables in AutoCAD to use them to generate information and annotate our AutoCAD drawings. So we've got a new drawing for you. It's called tablestyles.dwg. And you can see that we've got a typical table in that drawing. Simply download it from the library and obviously open up the drawing to follow along with the video. And in this particular table, you can see that we've got a title of typical table, and we've got 5 headers going across the table there, and then the cells below to put the information into the table. Now, that is developed using the standard table style. But where do we find all of this information? Well, tables are annotation. So if you go to the Annotate tab on your ribbon in AutoCAD, you'll see the Tables panel here. Mine's a bit squished, purely due to the resolution that I'm working on to record the videos for you. And if you want to work on a table style, you can click on the little 45-degree arrow here, like so, and that will open up the Table Style dialog box. It looks remarkably like the Dimension Style and Text Style dialog boxes that we've used previously. If I click on Close and go to the Home tab on the ribbon and click on the flyout here for annotation, you'll notice I can also get to table styles here as well, like so. Brings up the same dialog box. I'll close that again. I'm going to jump back into the Annotate tab on the ribbon because it gives me a bit more scope to work with the tables here in the Tables panel. Now, at the moment, we have a standard table style. So it's there, standard. And that's all we're going to work with initially. So what I do is I click on the table command, like so, and you see there's the table style standard. We're just using the standard one. And we're going to start from an empty table. You can link to data if you wish. You can also extract data from the drawings. This goes back to the attributes I mentioned in the previous videos, for example. The insertion behavior will be an insertion point will be specified, or we can fit it to a specific window, and AutoCAD will squish the table into a specific area if you need it to be done. Now, we're going to set up a different size table. So instead of having 4 columns, we're going to have 6. The column width, I'm going to make that 100. And then data rows, we're going to have 10. Now, all of this is based on this preview down here, bottom left. And you'll notice that we've got first row cell style is the title. If I just bring the dialog box down a little, there's the title, there's the headers, there's the cells. And that's what we're going to be working at, title, header, and then data cells. So leave all of that information as it is and click on OK, and you will see your table floating on your crosshair. All you've got to do is roll back on the wheel a couple of notches to zoom out. And I'm just going to pop that underneath, like so. Click there, and it automatically brings up the text editor, you'll notice, on the ribbon, and I can put the title of my table in there. So this will be, let's say, Table 2, like so. And you might want to put a space in there, like that, Table 2. As soon as I press Tab, it will drop me to the first header. So that would be my Header 1, again, like so. Tab across, next one, Header 2, and so on and so forth, like so. And then if you keep tabbing, it just tabs you along to the next cell and even drops down to the next row each time. All you've got to do there is click away from the table to confirm those settings, or you can close the text editor in the ribbon. So if I click there, my table is done. That's information going into cells in the table. Notice as well, I can double click to put that information in and it'll automatically open the text editor. If I click away and then just click once in a cell, you'll see I get a totally different ribbon tab and ribbon panels called Table Cell. That's where I can start working with the cells themselves. I can even insert formulas like you can in Microsoft Excel if you wish. You can link cells, you'll notice. You can add fields and blocks to cells as well if you want to. There's a lot of information that can go into AutoCAD tables. I'll just hit escape there now just to deselect everything. You can use tables to bring in any type of information into your AutoCAD drawings. They're a very, very useful method of annotating your drawings, especially if you've got lots of text-based data that needs to be related back to the drawing information. So make sure that you utilize tables and the table styles in AutoCAD in your AutoCAD drawings. We're staying in the tablestyles.dwg file, and I've left it in the same state as it was at the end of the last video. So you can see table 2 there, the one that we created using our standard table style. Simply select that table, and you'll see all the grips and all the tools that allow you to mess around with the table, and just hit delete there, like so. And we're going to zoom in on the typical table that was there when we first opened up the drawing. What I'm going to show you now is how to design a table. Now, when I say design it, I don't mean give it all super duper chamfered and filleted corners and things like that, but just to make it stand out in an annotation way on your drawing. Now, the table itself, obviously the header and title and things, you double click in the cell and you can edit the text. That's great, but what about editing information like background colors of cells and text colors of cells and things? Let's just hit escape a couple of times. If I select the title cell and click once inside it, you see I get this kind of yellow pinky kind of background around it. And what that does is it takes you to the table cell tab in the ribbon. Now, when it says cell styles here, I can now select a color. So if I go for a color there, let's go for like a pale blue and click there. Can you see I'm adding a background to that particular cell, which is the title cell? If I now click away, you see I've got that blue color, hit escape a couple of times. It makes the title of the table stand out. Let's do that with each header. Let's give each header a different color. So I click once on header 1, pick a color, like so. You can select more colors, and it will take you to the good old-fashioned select color dialog box in AutoCAD. So I'm going to go for like a pale green there, click on OK, and there's the green. If I now click on header 2, I can change the color again. Let's make that a pinkish color. Header 3, and again, you just work your way across selecting a different color for each one. And I'm just picking very random colors here, but these could have a specific use or requirement. They could all be used to relate to colors that you might have set up on your drawing that are to represent different room uses or space uses, for example. So I'll do one more color here. I'll go with, say, a yellowish color or maybe even a reddish color, something like that. Click away and you can see all those headers have been updated like so. Now that's obviously just the information on the table itself. If I double click now inside the cell, I can now change the color of the text if I wish. If I go here, I can make that red. Click away from it and you can see that's now red. So you can do it in the same way as the background color. Now, select the table just on the edge, like so. And you'll see you've got many grips there. Just roll back on the wheel a notch so you've got a bit of space around your table. You'll notice you've got these arrows. If I click on an arrow, that'll uniformly stretch the table width. If I click there, it makes all of the columns wider. I can do the same here, click, drag, and do it that way, and it uniformly stretches the table both width and height, and I can stretch this way as well, and as you can see, the rows get deeper. I can also click on this grip here. This is the move table, so I can move the table wherever I want to move it to, and you'll notice here I can change column widths individually as well. Click on a grip, drag along, click, it makes that column wider, this column smaller. Click on a grip, makes that column wider, header 3 column smaller. Click away from the table, hit escape a couple of times, and you can see those changes that you've made. So when you're designing your tables, you can see that you can add color, you can edit the text, you can edit the width, you can move the table, and you can also stretch the table as well. So there's a lot of functionality within AutoCAD tables. Use them for your annotation. They're an extremely useful annotation tool in your AutoCAD drawings. We're sticking with our tables theme in this particular video, but we've got a new drawing for you. It's called tablestyles_fields.dwg. Download it from the library as usual, and when you load it up, you'll notice that we've got a table for polylines and areas, and we've got two green polylines to the right hand side of the table. We're going to utilize the field command to add information to the cells in the table. So where it says polyline layer as the header, go down a cell in here and double click. You'll get your usual flashing cursor as if it's expecting regular text input in that cell. Look at the text editor tab in the ribbon and look at the insert panel, and you can see there's a field command. Click on it. And you'll find that you now get this great big field dialog box, which looks a little bit confusing. Don't be daunted by it. Click on the field category here and select objects. And you'll notice it rationalizes that information quite quickly. Select object in the field names, and the object type now needs to be selected. We've got a select objects icon. So you click on select object and you're going to select the rectangular polyline. Just click on it once and you'll see that you've now got all the information about that particular polyline. In this particular column, we want the layer that the polyline is on, which is the polylines layer. Click on OK. And you can see now that you get a field giving you the information about that polyline. Now, it's got a kind of grey background to it. Don't worry about that. That doesn't plot. That's just letting you know that that's a field in your table cell and not just a regular piece of text. So, click away from the table and you'll see there's your polylines layer in the cell in the table. We're going to double click in this cell, the corresponding cell for area now. And again, we go up to field on the ribbon. Now, because we've already selected objects and object on the left-hand side, all we've got to do is select the object. So you can click on the select object icon again, pick the same polyline, the rectangular one, and it gives you all the information. You'll notice area is the top one. And we want area, and there's the preview of it. And it's using basically the current precision in decimal, like so, which is great. That's fine. Now, we can change that precision if we want to and take it down to no decimal places. And that's what we're going to do. Click on OK, and you'll see that that's 1534, the area. Click away from the table, and that updates accordingly. Let's repeat that now for the little hexagon polyline. So it's a double click in this cell. Go to field, select object, select the hexagon, select layer, and again it's polylines. Click on OK, and there's polylines in the cell. Click away from the table. It updates the table. Double click in the corresponding area cell, and again click on field, select your hexagonal polyline. So select object first, then select the hexagon. Again, we've got area. We're using precision of no decimal places. It's remembered that, and it's 779. Click on OK, and it adds that information. Click away from the table. Now, it may be that we want to total up the areas and put it in this cell here. Click once in the cell, and you'll notice now that you've got formulas in the insert panel in the table cell tab on the ribbon. So click on the flyout for formula and select sum. Now we need to click and drag over the cell range that we want to add together. So it's a click and a drag and a click again, like so. And you can see it's adding up C3 to C6. So column C, C3 to C6. All you've got to do now is close the text editor, top right on the ribbon, and there's our added up value, but it's gone to the 4 decimal places. If I click in that cell once, I can actually go to data format here and custom table cell format. And what I can do there is change the current precision again to the 0 with no decimal places. Click on OK, click away from the table. hit escape to deselect any commands, and you can see it's added them up without the decimal places. So now you can see how really useful a table is in your AutoCAD drawing utilizing that fields command. It's really, really useful. You can extract data from AutoCAD objects, put it into a table in your AutoCAD drawings. We're moving on to another chapter now in our AutoCAD Essentials course, and we're going to be looking at what is known as XREFs. These are external reference files, often abbreviated to the phrase XREF. And what you can do is you can virtually paperclip a drawing onto a host drawing and use it as a reference, hence the term external reference. The major benefit of this is if your referenced drawing, your XREF, is a complicated drawing and you're paper clipping it to your host drawing, it is only going to be roughly 10% of its original size. It'll only make the host drawing about 10% bigger instead of obviously doubling the drawing size, for example. So it's a really useful piece of functionality purely due to file size, but also it's great because you can reference in other drawings that other people are working on at any given time. So the benefit you have there is if a drawing updates, the reference file will update, and thus in the host drawing you've got the most current information that you need. So we've got a new drawing for you for this particular chapter. It's called xrefs.dwg. You can see the name of it there at the top of the screen. Now you'll notice we've got a floor plan laid out there, and we've also got a dashed line going around it. That is the property line. Now, what I'd like you to do is click on that dashed line. As soon as you do that, you'll notice that the ribbon changes and it goes to an external reference tab on the ribbon, and you can edit the reference in place. You can open the reference. You can also create a clipping boundary, remove a clipping boundary, and you can go and look at external references as well. So you can see that it's one whole object. It's not just a polyline that is using a dash line type, for example. Now, what you need to do is make sure that this reference drawing is stored in the same location as your host drawing. And you can check that by clicking here on your external references icon. What that'll do is it'll open up the external references palette, which I'm just going to expand for you a little bit. So if I click here and drag it across a little bit so that we can see what's going on. You'll find now that this particular XREF is called property line. And that's the other DWG that you've got in the library when you download your XREFs DWG. So you want to make sure that you download both files from the library and put them in the same folder. That way, when you open up XREFs, the property line reference file is referenced in accordingly. And it's a relative file path. That's what this little dot here means. And when I say relative file path, that means it's in the same folder. AutoCAD will look for the reference file in the same folder as the host drawing. Now, the way that you can tell which one is which is the host drawing is always the blue and yellow icon, and the reference drawing has a DWG icon, a little black and white DWG icon. And if you look really closely, there's a little blue paperclip on it as well. So the whole idea is that this reference file is paperclipped to your host drawing. And what you can do is you can right click on it and you can open it, you can attach it, you can unload it, reload it, etc. Now, what we're going to do in this chapter is look at what we can do with these reference files and how they are of use to you when you're working in your AutoCAD drawings. So just hit escape a couple of times and then close the external references palette like so, and then just hit escape to deselect your property line reference file, and you'll go back to the regular AutoCAD ribbon. We're staying in our xrefs.dwg file, and what we're going to have a look at now is attaching an xref file to a host drawing. Now, our host drawing is called xrefs.dwg, and our reference file is called propertyline.dwg. Now, we know that from the last video when we went into the external references palette. So we're going to go to the Insert tab on the ribbon, go to the Reference panel, and click on the little arrow here, like so. That'll open up the external references palette. Now, what we're going to do here, I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller so we can see more of the drawing like so. And the idea is that we're going to detach the property line from the xrefs.dwg file. So select property line in the palette, right click on it and hit detach. That will remove the reference file. That is the preferred method of removing any xref from any host drawing. Don't just delete them because there may be a path left behind. If I close the external references palette now, you can see that we are left with only the information in the xrefs.dwg file. If I go back to the Insert tab on the ribbon now, go back to my reference panel and click on the little arrow again to open up the external references palette. I can now go up to the top left here and click on the flyout and select Attach DWG. You'll also notice that there's lots of other types of files that can be attached as reference files. So you've got things like images, PDFs, point clouds, and so on. We're using a DWG, so you click on Attach DWG. We want the property line DWG file. That's our reference file. So you select it and you click on Open. You'll then get the Attach External Reference dialog box. There's the name of the reference. Notice here we've got two types of reference. We've got attachment and overlay. If I hover over the word overlay, it gives you a little tooltip. And basically an overlay is unlike an xref that is an attachment. It's ignored when the drawing to which it is attached is then attached as an xref to another drawing. So you're kind of xrefing and then xrefing again. And the overlay will not be displayed, whereas an attachment will be. Now, we're just going to set the scale and the insertion point, the path, etc. Scale, X, Y, and Z, you'll need to set those to 1 and untick specify on screen. Same with insertion point, untick specify on screen, and you'll need X, Y, and Z to be 0 because our origin is 0, 0 for this reference file. Path type will be relative. That's the preferred path type, which means that the property line reference file will be in the same folder as the xrefs.dwg file. You can also go full path to find a full path for a reference file, or have no path as well. Relative path is the preferred method. Rotation, angle will be 0, untick specify on screen. The units in this case are millimeters and the factor is 1. When I click on OK, you'll see the property line go around the information in our xrefs.dwg file. If I now close the external references palette and click on the dash line, you can see our external reference has been applied to the xrefs.dwg file. You can then hit escape a couple of times to deselect. You can see how quick and easy it is to attach these xrefs to your host drawings. And the benefit, like I said, is you've got the ability to have other drawings attached to your drawing and other people can be working on them at any given time. We're staying in our xrefs.dwg file, and you can see that the property line xref is actually applied to the drawing at the moment. You can see the dash line going around the building and around the grids and everything else. Now, one of the nice things that you can do with xrefs is create what is called a clipping boundary, because you might not want to see all of the xref in the host drawing. So let's have a look at that and see how that works. I can use clip here, and you can see I can clip a block, an externally referenced file, or a viewport to a specified boundary. So that means I can clip an xref to a specified boundary. But there's actually a quicker way and a nicer workflow, which is a bit more direct. If you simply select the xref, so I'm clicking on the property line, and you'll notice on the external reference tab that pops up on the ribbon, I can create a clipping boundary there, and I can remove a clipping boundary. Click on Create Clipping Boundary. When you come into the drawing area, you've got a choice. You can select an already existing polyline if it's there, or you can make it polygonal, or you can make it rectangular, and you can invert the clipping boundary as well. We're going to go for polygonal. And what this allows me to do is draw a polygonal clipping boundary. Just watch what I do on the screen. If you click here and just drag and use your polar tracking, you can position a boundary going around like so. And I'm not doing anything special, just something very, very simple. I'll go and hover over that point there and just bring it down like so. Now, it doesn't have to be perfectly vertical or anything like that. And click there like so. So there is our boundary. Now, as I come up, I can bring that in there. And what I'll do is I can close it by snapping to a point if I want to, or I can just click like so. So as you can see, there's our boundary there. I press enter to confirm. And what I've done, I've just drawn a very random boundary around what is a shape forming part of the building in the xrefs.dwg. You'll notice as soon as I place that clipping boundary, it's clipped the building line, the polyline, the dash polyline that forms that property line. So what I've got now is a clipped boundary showing only part of the reference file. Now, the nice thing about this is I've got a little arrow here. If I click it, I can invert the boundary. Can you see? So there's the polyline forming the clipping boundary, but the xref is showing over here. I've inverted it. If I click it again, brings it back inside the boundary. So you can have a boundary and then click and show something outside the boundary instead, if there's part of the xref that you don't want to see. Obviously, if you don't want the boundary there anymore, you simply go to remove clipping, and with the boundary selected, everything goes back to normal. Hit escape to deselect the xref, and you're done. It's that quick. And it's that easy. Clipping xrefs is a really, really useful facility in AutoCAD. You don't have to see the whole xref in the host drawing. You might only need part of it. So utilize those clipping boundaries to your advantage. We're staying in our xrefs.dwg file. And as I mentioned previously, other people can be working on an xref that you may have inserted as a reference drawing in your host drawing. So our property line, our dash line, someone else could be working on that drawing and load it in as an xref into our host drawing for us if need be. And what you can do is edit xrefs very quickly and easily in that way. And then the next time you load up the drawing, you know you've got the most current information from all your reference files. So we're going to do this kind of locally as if we're two people. So I'm going to go up to open here. And when I go to open, I can open up my property line DWG file, which is being used as a reference file. So I'll click on open and just zoom out slightly there by rolling back on the wheel. So you've now got your dashed line that represents your property line open in its own DWG file. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the Home tab on the ribbon, and you're going to basically change a corner. So here to here. What we're going to do, we're going to go here to the fillet and chamfer. I'm going to click on fillet, and I'm going to click on that line there and that line there, and I'm just going to tweak that corner to make it a right-angled corner. That's the only change I'm going to make. As soon as I do that, I then click on Save. So I've saved that change in the propertyline.dwg file. So you're imagining now that I'm CAD operator number 2 elsewhere in a different office kind of idea. So I close the property line file. Now, as soon as I do that, I will get a prompt in my host drawing to say an external reference file has changed. As soon as that reference file is changed and the save button is clicked, that's what happens. So now I can reload my property line reference and you'll see it updates with the right angled corner. It's really, really useful because other people can be working on other drawings, which saves you time. You don't have to work on all the drawings at once. So you can see there that the change has been made to that property line reference file externally, and your host drawing has said, hey, a change has been made. You need to reload the xref file, which is what we've just done. And that's how quick and easy it is to edit xrefs and get them reloaded back into the host drawing. Once again, we're staying in our xrefs.dwg file. I've left it in exactly the same state as it was at the end of the last video, where we've made that change to the xref file and added that right-angled corner to the property line. What about, though, if we can edit our XREF files in place as well, which can be done? Simply select the reference file, which is our dashed property line, like so. And that'll take us to the External Reference tab on the ribbon. Now, we've looked at clipping boundaries and we've looked at options with the External References palette. Here's the Edit in Place. So I can open the reference file there and go and edit it as a separate DWG, or I can edit it in place. So click on Edit Reference in Place. It'll now ask you for which reference you want to edit. There's only one in this drawing, which is the property line. So we click on OK. And now, basically, it references a previous release drawing file format. What it's letting me know there is that the propertyline.dwg file has been saved as an older DWG file format. And I always do that for all of these videos anyway. I save back to 2013 DWG, whereas the latest version of AutoCAD that we're using to record this course uses a 2018 DWG file format as a default. So all it's saying is, if it's an older version, it will say if edits are saved back to the XREF, the reference drawing file will be updated to the current release drawing format. Be aware of that. It'll go to a 2018 DWG file format. I'll click on OK there. And what it does now is it grays out the host drawing and highlights the reference drawing. So you'll see now that the ribbon has changed. I've got some options now where I can save the changes, discard the changes, add information to the working set, or remove information from the working set. What I'm going to do is I'm going to now just change this corner here on the polyline. So what I'm going to do is go back to the Home tab on the ribbon, like so, and I'm going to go here and I'm going to create chamfer, like so, right-click and select a distance, and that distance is going to be 2,500. Enter. And the second distance will also be 2,500. Enter. And I'll select my first line here. So it's left-click and left-click. There's my little chamfer on the corner. So I've now edited that reference in place while it's referenced into my host drawing. If I go back up to the ribbon now and click on the flyout here, you can see there that I've got save changes or discard changes. I'm going to save the changes, like so. All reference edits will be saved. Click on OK, and you can see now that my corner has been updated in place in my reference file. So you've got two choices. You can edit in place, like we've done in this video, or someone else can be editing that reference file elsewhere, and as soon as they save, you'll get that little prompt at the bottom of the screen telling you to reload the reference file because changes have been made. So there's ways and means of updating your reference files quickly and easily, whether that be remotely or locally, like we've just done, where we've edited the reference in place. We've come to the end now of our AutoCAD Essentials course. I do hope you've enjoyed the course and picked up even more essential training skills for AutoCAD. What we've done with this course is given you a deeper dive into some of the more basic functionality of AutoCAD using the latest version of AutoCAD, AutoCAD 2020. I do hope that you can take this knowledge you've gained, use it in your workplace to develop your skill set and make you a more competent and rounded AutoCAD user.